Welcome to Self-Defense for Women Live an Empowered Life, the podcast that helps you stay safe, feel strong, and take control of your personal security, physically and emotionally. I'm Julie Waite, women's safety advocate, and alongside me is self-defense expert Dene Josham, former bodyguard of Angelina Jolie, Brad Pitt and Russell Crowe. Just before we start, we have a small request. If you find our podcast helpful, please hit the subscribe button and leave us a review. We're a new podcast and it really helps us reach more women like you. So, when we talk about keeping children safe, our minds often jump to the strangers lurking in the shadows, but the real danger is often much closer to home, hiding in plain sight. In today's episode, we're breaking down the top danger zones for children, from family gatherings and sleepovers to the digital world and the school run. Some of what you'll hear may surprise you, but it's not about fear, it's about awareness, prevention and protecting our kids with calm, clear action and honest conversations. We'll share the latest statistics, real-world insights and what every parent needs to know. Because knowledge isn't just about power, it's about protection. So the top danger zone that we believe and that statistically appears to be the most dangerous situation for children, and it's such a horrible thing to have to think about, but it's family, friends and people that you know, because according to statistics, I've got one here I'm going to read out for you from the NSPCC in 2023 in the UK, 90% of sexually abused children were abused by someone they knew. And around 1 in 20 children they believe have been sexually abused. So it's not, you want to be able to trust all your family and friends and people that you know. So, you know, clubs that they go to, school clubs, hobbies, but that statistically is where these things happen. I'm guessing because there's a level of trust there, there's maybe some unsupervised access there, and it's just such a horrible thing to have to think about, but you do need to be aware of that, don't you?
Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? Yeah, them reported statistics, and like I said there, what isn't reported, and it's such a difficult topic. So knowing that, like for me as a parent, I'm very aware and pay more close attention to the interactions of people just to make sure, you know, there's nothing that gives me that sort of worry or concern or something's off, because that's where the danger is. You know, we don't leave our kids on their own. They're normally with somebody we know, trust, like and care, or they're with a group or doing some activity. You don't just let them wander around on the streets normally on their own.
It's not even that though, wandering around on the streets, is it? That's not the issue. I mean, obviously there is an issue there, but the issue is for me, and this is something that I've been aware of. I've been very aware of this since my kids were little. How do you know who you can trust within your family and friends? And it's a horrible thing to have to look at members of your family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, family friends, to have to look at them and think, you know, how much do you trust these people, and how it's trusting them, and then you know, what kind of access are they going to have? Because you see these things in the news, and it's someone that people are surprised they didn't think it would be that family member.
Yeah,
it's hard because it makes you think, who can I trust? It's very, very difficult topic.
Yeah, it does. I must admit, for me, it does make me look at every individual that comes into contact with people, kids that I know, or you know, my kids. Because I think you have to pay that level of attention and detail, because that's where the biggest danger is. So it's not scaremongering. It's like, this is where the danger is. Let's look at it closely and be very aware of that. Not that we're judging anybody, but we just know that's what the statistics tell us.
I think as well, a massive part of it has got to be like trusting your gut instinct. If you just get any sense of something or someone being a little bit weird, or your child doesn't want to go to them, or doesn't seem excited to go and see them, although even then, you know, it depends on how they've groomed them and what they've said to them. They could be excited to go and see them because the kids don't understand. But I know there's this kind of, you sometimes feel a bit embarrassed, you know, if the kids won't go and give the family member a hug, or, you know, sometimes older family members kind of say, oh, come and sit on my knee, or come and give us a hug or a
Yeah.
kiss, and the kids don't want to. And,
Don't make them.
don't make them. I mean, I have been guilty of that in the past. Oh, go on then, go and give them a hug, or go and do that. Now I know what I know in more detail. I won't do that.
Yeah.
But if the child doesn't feel comfortable going to that person, then you have to kind of advocate for them and say,
Yeah.
we just allow them to give a hug when they feel comfortable with it, because we're trying to teach them about what feels comfortable, and we're not trying to push them into things that they don't feel comfortable doing with their body. So, and you'd have to hope the relatives would understand that, and if they don't, well, that's their issue that they have to deal with.
Also, that's another indicator that there might be a problem.
Yeah.
Somebody takes offence. Any good human being, any good adult, if a kid doesn't want to hug you, then you don't take offence. It's okay. That there might not be a huggy kid, or person. I don't, people I don't hug, because I'm not comfortable. And it's like, if you're not comfortable, you've got to back your child up and go and step in there, so the child doesn't feel attacked or anything. Just go, oh, no hugs today, that's fine, or whatever it is best for the child, and then speak to the adult on their own and go, look, don't put my kid on the spot. If my kid doesn't want to hug you, don't try and override that by saying something manipulative. And then from that in conversation as well, that'll probably tell you a lot about the person as well. That might help you, give us some sense of that. And then if it's a good person, they're going to change that.
Yeah. And also having real open conversations with children from a very young age about a couple of really key rules that you may already use, or something to think about, is no secrets.
Yeah.
That's an important one. And the pants rule, which is, there's loads about that on the NSPCC website if you want to look that up. And they've got like videos and songs and things to make it fun for the kids. But basically the pants rule is that no one should ever touch you or ask to see where you wear your pants or your vest. And they shouldn't show you theirs. And then the secrets is just about trying to make sure that if anyone ever tries to get them to keep a secret, they know that from the outset the rule is, we don't have secrets, we don't do secrets. Secrets are bad.
It's ownership as well. I think it's getting your child to understand ownership of themselves. Their body's their body. I know as parents, when they're little, we do things, but you can explain that to your child when to sort of make them aware of that and say, no, your body's your body and your voice is very strong and powerful. And also looking at that communication's massive, isn't it? Making sure them lines of communications are always open. Something happened to me when I was younger, and now I reflect on that. No one's fault. I just didn't have any form of communication, line of communication to be able to speak to an adult, because I didn't know. It's like, I couldn't process it. Didn't know, was that right? Was that wrong? Couldn't talk to anybody because of who it was and things like that. And looking back now, I blocked it out for quite a lot of years. And I'm like, wow, looking back at it, I'm like, whew, yeah. And it's always, now for us, it's not about us, it's about our kids.
Yeah.
Giving them that confidence.
Yeah. And something that I've started doing in recent years is, before we go somewhere and then on the way back from somewhere, or before someone comes to the house or afterwards, I'll just say to them, like if they're going around to a friend's or a family or whatever, I'll just say to them, just remember that nobody should ever make you do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, say anything to you, ask you to do anything. Remember, they shouldn't show you privates. There should be none of that. And then on the way back as well, I'll say, how was that? Or, if they've been to stay with relatives, whatever it is, I'll say, how was that? Did anything happen? Was there anything that made you feel uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Are you sure? You can tell me anything. No one will get in trouble. Yeah. We'll talk about it and we'll sort it all out together. So every single time, before and after, there's that unsupervised access with people. I just give them the reminder before, and then give them an opportunity afterwards, just to try and give them that chance if something has happened.
And also, I think now with phones and that, most, depending on obviously a child's age, access to a phone, if they've got their own phone, then it's having some form of understanding between you that if you send me something, then I know I need to come and get you. So yeah, as a parent, I want to share this story, and I thought it was massive. It was a male teacher I was at an all-girls school, and he shared this story. He'd asked the class of young women, would you tell your dad? All the women apart from one, all the young women said, no, I wouldn't tell my dad. The young woman who said, yeah, I'll tell my dad, she shared the story that her dad had said to her, as long as you're safe, that's all that matters to me. I will come and get you anytime, any place, anywhere. I will not ask you what's gone on as long as you're safe. What happened is she'd gone out with a group of friends, she'd gone to the local park, another group of friends came, and she felt uncomfortable. So she sent an emoji to her dad, which was a signal to her dad to come and pick her up, because she didn't want to write like, help dad, come and get me, in case the phone was taken and her friends made fun and all this. So the dad turned up, be the bad guy. Hey, you've got to come home. You haven't done your homework. Blah blah blah. So she saved face with her friends. Got her in the car and said, "Are you okay?" And she's gone, "Yeah, I'm okay, Dad." Okay, great. Took her home. Didn't ask her. And I think it was about 2. She said about 2 weeks had passed, and she was like, "Dad, you haven't asked me." And he turned around and said, "I promised you. As long as you're all right, you don't have to tell me." And she told him the story. And she said, "I want to tell you, Dad, because what happened was the other group of friends that came." One of them had some drugs, and she goes, I was really uncomfortable. I couldn't really get out of it, so that's why I messaged you to come and get me. And I thought, wow, how powerful is that? Because the trust there that he wasn't going to ask, as long as she's safe, that's all his concern is. But also on the other side, the daughter not fearing her father's emotional, physical reaction.
Yeah.
Because it's all about our kids. If we emotionally, get all angry and that, your child's going to shut down. Because potentially that could be pretty scary. And also, they're not going to tell you because they know you're going to flare up. Also, if I'm going to go around and grab them and, sort them out, they're going to worry about the physical response because they don't want the dad, the mum, the parent, the guardian, whoever, to be arrested to go to prison.
Yeah,
So,
and if it's someone that they know, a loved one, they've got conflicting feelings because they don't want the friend or the family member to get beaten up by the mum or dad.
That's the other element of, a child can be groomed over a period of time. And then that can be in a way that the child doesn't realise is wrong. And then the father, mother, whoever says, if anybody does this to you, that's wrong. And all of a sudden the child's gone, well, now and dad's going to do this to so-and-so that I love and care for, and now dad's telling me that wrong, but I love that person and that was right. And the child is just going to a flat spin and just shut down. So sort of reframing it in a way that if, saying to a child, if anyone does this, then, we need to talk about it because that person's not well. We need to help them. So you keep them lines of communication open so your child knows that they can always come to you. And that goes across everything, can it? If somebody gets like an inappropriate picture sent, there's no it's not the child's fault, but your child needs to understand that needs to be shown to you, because then you can help that stop that from something happening to somebody else, potentially another child, and that that's wrong and it's not your fault.
Yeah, it's interesting you said about the picture then, because the next danger hotspot beyond the family and friends, people that is online, which arguably is like as dangerous as anything else these days, because it's just absolutely full of predators, and they can get so close. They can kind of it's like thinking about, they can just walk straight into your house and into your child's bedroom. That's how close they get to them. And you see in the news all the time horrible cases, one of things happening to children, but then two of children like taking their own lives, young children taking their own lives because they just are so confused and shamed and in such a bad place over what's happened. So I've got a couple of statistics here. In the UK, 33,000 online child sex offences were recorded by police in 2022 to 23. The average age of a child being groomed online is 12. 1 in 5 children aged 10 to 17 have received a sexual message online. Snapchat was involved in nearly half of the grooming cases. And then this one, which surprised me actually, 92% of child sexual abuse content removed in 2023 was self-generated, often involving children coerced via webcams. So it's not like, oh, they're trying to find out where your child lives and come and kidnap them and get to them. Although, there is some of that. I know there's been cases where they've turned up at schools to wait for them outside locally. But it's a case of then them getting the child to do things to themselves and record it, and then that can be used to, bribe them or whatever it is, blackmail them, get them to do more things because they're ashamed. So there's so many different angles of this.
Such manipulation.
It is.
Also, I saw a documentary a few weeks ago now, and it was in America, and it was a young girl, I think she's about 12, and she'd got chatting to somebody online, and very manipulative, predators, posing as the same age. I think it was another girl, and then got this relationship going, and then she was saying that she liked women, she was a lesbian, and then the other person, or whoever it was, sent a picture and then requested one back. So it's like, like for like, kind of, oh well. And then it wasn't actually who it was, because it was probably AI generated picture.
Yeah.
In the end, it went into getting this increased to more explicit stuff. And in the end, because of the shame and the guilt, the actual person on the other side was going to say, I'm going to send this to your parents, put it on social media, you're better off killing yourself. And she took her own life. So it's it's like, wow. It's having these conversations with your kids. So let me share an example I've had recently with my son. On my phone, on my WhatsApp group, I've had this, I don't know if I've still got it. I've kept it because I'm like, he needs to understand this. This woman, I don't know, say Doris, I'm like, message from Doris. I'm like, who's Doris? Picture. I'm like, and it's gone, hi, Sebastian. I've just found your number scribbled on a piece of paper. Just wanted to check if it was you. Clicked on the picture. She's a nice looking, good looking woman. And I'm like, okay, yeah, of course. And I've shown my son that. I said, what do you reckon to this? And he's laughed and gone, oh yeah, that's really sketchy, isn't it, Dad? And I'm like, yeah, but look at how that could lead. You could be, if you're a good person, you go, oh, this isn't Sebastian. Oh, well, who are you? Oh, and then it progresses. It's a slow escalation. So I've showed him that and gone, just be aware, son, and that this is how things can happen. And difficult conversations, but also I think for us as parents is being interested in what's going on. And being inquisitive. I have some good conversations, with my son about what's going on in his life, and also like what their mates up to, things like that. I don't judge. I was young, and I'm like, well, what do you think to that? So I'm letting him tell me. I'm not kind of, well, what are you up to? I'm like, so what's going on? And he has no fear that I'm going to go and tell other parents and stuff like. Obviously, there was something serious. Then obviously that's different, but they're doing stuff, vaping, drinking, the kind of. As adults we probably did go out drinking underage and all that, and he's it's not for him, but he's seen his friends do it, and it's interesting to see what's going on. And are there any online challenges that young adults, because there was that slapping one, wasn't there, and the ice bucket challenge, and I don't know if there's anything within teenagers that are getting pushed.
There was that one I remember that one where they were tripping people up backwards and someone cracked their head open, didn't they? Yeah, things like that. I'd say most of the arguments in our household with the kids is over phones. It's so difficult, and then they're comparing with what their friends are allowed to do on their phones. But you have to just have a really good hard think about what the rules are in your house about phones, laptops, for and a really maybe sit down as a family and put some rules down on paper, and talking to them and explaining it's about keeping them safe. So things like not allowing them to have it at bedtime. Our kids don't have them in their room on their own. If they're playing on things like Roblox, which actually is, some areas of Roblox have been flagged as being like really dodgy for high volumes of grooming. My kids do play on that, but they're not allowed to chat with anyone, and there's certain games that are like more mainstream games that they play on. But things like, if they're going to play on those games, they're playing in the kitchen. I might not necessarily be in the kitchen, I might be around the house, but they're not in their bedroom on their own with the door shut on the phones. And then, like Dean said, having those chats. So I'll say quite often, do you chat with anyone? No, we don't, because they're not supposed to chat with anyone. And I said, oh, you know why we do that, don't you? People can pretend. And, that person that's pretending to be a girl could be like an old man and he's trying to get you to send pictures of himself. And the kids normally go, ooh, that's horrible. And it's like, but I feel like I do have to be honest with them, just to tell them.
Yeah.
Like, if they know, if you're just kind of saying, oh, there's bad people, you have to pick how old they are and what they can deal with. But if you just say, oh, there's bad people out there, don't, be careful on the internet. But if I say to them, that person that's pretending to be a teenage girl could be a man in his 60s and he wants to come and find you, or he wants you to take pictures of your bum or your boobs or whatever and send them to him, then he's going to blackmail you just to do things, or he'll say he'll send them around your friends. It is a bit scary for them, but you do need to have a level of fear so that they don't just go chatting with everyone and anyone and putting themselves in danger.
When my son was young, he used to play on the Xbox, and he used to play on Rocket League, and he used to have a Friday night league, team up with people all over the world, and he would have a headset on. So I'm very aware, like, what they're saying and everything like that. So, and his friends used to be on there, and in the end, he took his headset off and he didn't do it because they were falling out, and he said, I just want to play the game, Dad. But what was interesting, and he was talking to somebody in China, and that was a conversation I could have to say, that's somebody you play online with. It's not a real friend. Only real friends are when you meet them. And so it's like an online friend. So you actually don't know who that is. You don't know anything about them. Whatever they put up there, could be a lie. So it's to just be aware of that. And it's talking in that honest sense of, what, and explaining as parents, we're not overreaching. We're just looking out until they understand the dangers, and also always being there to discuss it and have these conversations. They're not daft. They grow up, unfortunately, too quick.
Yeah, they do.
And they know a lot. I've learned so much from my kids because I'm not a teenager. I don't know what's going on, what they're experiencing, but they share stuff with me and go, okay, and that's helped us with this, what we do, to go, oh, I didn't want to wear that because I'm not in their world.
Yeah, and it's strange because in one sense they do grow up very quickly and they can tell us things about what's going on and they can make some good judgments. But in the other sense, I think is it 24 when you're actually emotionally, like your brain's developed and you're emotionally mature. So, if you're talking like 12, 13, 14, 15 or younger, because a lot of kids younger that get phones aged like 8 or 9, even though they can seem very mature, they're not fully developed. So don't get lulled into a sense of security by thinking, oh, they're really mature because they talk to me about this and that.
Yeah.
They're still only kids.
Yeah, and anybody can be manipulated.
Yeah.
Adults are manipulated.
Adults are manipulated all the time. Look at all these scams and things.
Yeah. And we've got a fully functional brain, apparently. It's like you said, when do you mature? Yeah. Some people never do. So it's looking at it and going, all right, as much as they're can be very grown up, it's like we've still got to look out for them.
Yeah. And the next area to look at, the next danger hotspot that we've put down is sleepovers. And it just made me think none of these conversations are going to make you popular with your kids. And I'm not being popular about a lot of these things, but you obviously your kids will love you.
Yeah. But
you can't.
Can we just bounce back to just one thing I want to share, sorry, before we move on, because it's also understanding, when people form friendships online and then they go to meet up, there's cases where they've gone to meet up and it's not. Yeah. So it's like being aware of that, making sure, your child and you understand that if you're going to meet up, it has to be in an environment where they're safe, whether you're with them or something else like that, because that has happened. And
it has.
Sorry.
And giving out any information about themselves as well. There was one, we had a briefing at school. A police officer came into our school, the primary school, and did a briefing for parents. And she said that at the local secondary school, someone, this paedophile had turned up looking for this kid that he'd been grooming because he'd found out what school he went to. So, that's like 5 minutes away from where we are. So it makes it very close to home when you hear things like that. So, like I said, we move on to sleepovers. And this, we haven't got any. I tried to get some statistics for sleepovers, but this it's not something that's collected. But there's a lot of anecdotal evidence about sleepovers, and when you look at adults that have been abused, that have, finally managed to come out and talk about what's happened to them, a lot of that has happened with sleepovers. And it can be parents or adults who are at the house, but also, which was a surprise to me, older kids, older brothers, siblings, or other friends that are staying over at the sleepover as well. So it's really about trying to understand how mature your child is and whether they can stand up for themselves, whether they are able to say no, whether they come and talk to you about things. If they aren't particularly mature, and if you don't feel confident that if something was to happen, if someone was to come up to them and say, "Oh, come with me," or "do this," or "show me that," or whatever it is, are they strong enough to say no and go and ask for help? Do they know what to do? Have you got a plan? Will they talk to you? And I think if you don't feel really confident in that, then you'd have to question whether the sleepover is going to be safe for them.
Yeah.
But it's sad because it's like, oh, that's a really fun part of childhood sleepovers. Yeah.
But it's also, I've met other kids' parents, and it's like we can all seem really nice. Oh, they seem really nice chap, nice lady, whoever. But we don't really know them, do you? So it's like, it's not. No. I hate to. It's always like I feel like I'm very cynical of the world. Yeah. But it's the reality that we have to be aware of and go, okay, we don't know them people. The daughters or the sons get on, or whoever gets on. That's great. But who's the parents? Who's the guardians? Who's the all the members in that house or potential people visiting? Mm-hmm. And then it's that. Yeah, it's another uncomfortable conversation to make sure your kids are aware of that in a way that empowers them and also gives them that confidence that you're there for them on all levels. And it's like I say, the what if game. What if that did happen? What would we do? What would you want to your child? What would you want me to do? What would you want to do? So I'm looking at it as trying to look at everything in a sense of they know their options. They've got an idea of what they could do, what you're going to do as well. So it's kind of a lot of layers to it.
It's having a plan in place so that if anything feels uncomfortable, what do they do? So I've always said, my kids haven't had many sleepovers. They've had some, but it's not something that I encourage. But the plan is that, if something happens that they feel uncomfortable about, they say they feel sick or they're going to be sick, or they say they've been sick, or they come up with, normally because that's an easy thing for a kid to say and it's something easy to remember. I've always said you can call me and I'll come and get you. But if they can say, I've been sick, I need to go home, or feel sick, I need to go home, then that's just an excuse that they can use. And having your phone on all through the night so that if they do try and call you, you're available and you can go and get them.
Also reaffirming to them, saying, look, my phone's always on. Look, please don't worry about waking mum or dad up or whoever up. Look, if you need to wake me up, that's cool. Yeah,
or they can text you, like Dean said earlier, if you have a family emoji or a word that they can use, like an emergency word that you pick as a family, that if they say it or text that word, you or then
sentence,
know
something,
anything,
something
whatever works for you.
I suppose for me, I'd say something that would be kind of like normal and it wouldn't raise alarm. Yeah. So because if somebody did read it and they're like, oh, then obviously you're not there and your child or young adult is still there, so that could escalate a situation that you can avoid by something a bit more normal. But
it could be a question of something like, could we have pancakes for breakfast? That could be the question that they say.
Yeah, we're having pancakes when I get back. Yeah, perfect.
And if you get that at 2 a.m. or whenever, then they need you.
Then you need to get there, and they know that you're going to get there. And also, give them a time frame, because, if I get that pancake text, I will be there within 15 minutes. So in the young person child's head, mum, dad, whoever's going to be there in 15 minutes. That's going to really reassure them that somebody's on the way.
Yeah. I've got a couple of examples. There was one that I think it was last year that really caught my attention, that was in the news, and it was a dad in the US, and there was a group of teenage girls having a sleepover at his house. I think the parents were divorced and it was just the dad there and this group of girls, and he went off and made them all smoothies. And he was very insistent that they should drink these smoothies, and he was trying to persuade them all to drink the smoothies. A couple of the girls drank the smoothies. There was one girl, and thank goodness she listened to her gut instinct, because she said she felt something was off and she felt something was wrong and she didn't drink it. He had put drugs in the smoothies, and I think at least 2 or 3 of the other girls had passed out. This girl got in touch with her parents, and then, they managed to get there, get it sorted, get all the other girls to hospital, and, prosecute this guy. But you think, it's that what I was saying earlier. Is your child strong enough to say no when someone tries to persuade them to do something they don't want to do? So maybe those other girls didn't realise. Yeah. Maybe they just thought, he's made it for us, and whatever he was saying to try and manipulate them, we should have it because he's made it for us. But if that girl hadn't listened to that, you just don't even know what was going to happen to them. An example of someone that I know, her daughter had gone to a sleepover. Similar thing, I think they just moved into the house, and it was just the dad there and the girls for the sleepover. And the girls' house they were going to was giving them a tour around the house. And the dad was kind of tagging along and trying to get into the conversation and, just getting involved in a weird way. She felt something was a bit weird and creepy about it because, anyone who's got teenagers knows that when they come round, they're off doing their own thing. You're not tagging along behind them, trying to join in, particularly if it's a dad and girls. I think most dads would actually be conscious of not getting too involved because you don't want to be accused of anything. So anyway, this dad was tagging along and he was just being a bit weird and creepy. Then they kind of had the rest of the evening, or something that had happened, and they had to go home. And he was insisting on driving this girl home on her own and was trying to manipulate the situation so that his daughter didn't come, and he was just going to be driving this girl home on her own. And she just said she just had red flags going off, and it was just weird. And she called her mum and got it sorted. And then, obviously they're not going to be going around there again. But it's that thing of that girl knew to just listen to what she feels. And I think that's something that everyone can help their children to understand, that you have got a sixth sense, you have got an internal warning alarm system inside you, and if you feel something is creepy or wrong or off, you need to listen to that because it's trying to keep you safe. So I think that's a whole ongoing conversation from when kids are little right the way through their life, to listen to and trust your gut instinct, and ask for help when you need it, and not just go along with things.
Fair play to the young woman, because that takes some strength, because
it does.
I don't want to upset, and then somebody goes, I'll just nip it, it's only 5 minutes, and you go, I don't want to be a pain, and well, it'll save one of my parents coming out, and all these things that potentially flash up in your head. But also for me, like I always say to anybody, if you are more worried about upsetting somebody else than your own personal safety, we've got to look at that. You've got to look inside yourself and go, well, actually, my personal safety supersedes upsetting somebody's dad, mum, sister, brother, family member, anybody. Because you go, that's your personal safety's the most important thing we have. So worrying about upsetting somebody else, look at it and go, that's on them. If they get upset, then they're not concerned about my personal safety, because I need to do something here to get away, to be safe. And that's on them, not you. You're not being a bad person. You're looking after you. Yeah,
definitely. The next danger hotspot is walking to school or public transport. Now, it's often quite safe for kids to be walking to school, but it's one of those unsupervised moments that they have. And, whilst child abductions by strangers are extremely rare, the statistically they say it's less than 1% of all abductions are by strangers. However, people still try, and I know like locally here, and if you're looking at local news and things like that,
Yeah.
it's not often, but from time to time there are warnings that come out from school or on the local police sites that says, right, there's been a red van spotted, near the school, and asking kids, do they want a lift, or asking kids to come and look at something. And it does happen.
The story that I was shared with me probably about 6 weeks ago, local garage, I know some good guys there, family men, and one of them was saying that it was in the holidays and a young lad had left home early, probably about 8:30. He was going to his friend's house, get there at 9, going to play football like young lads do, get a full day at it. And this van was driving around and it had a man in it and he had a balaclava on. He pulled over next to the young lad, window down, and said, "Oh, do you want to get in the van because I've got some puppies?" And obviously he legged it because he was a smart kid. But that's local. I was like, wow. That was somebody out with intention. So it does happen. But also looking at, from what I understand, kids going to school, they have to check in. Normally, if they don't register in, there's a phone call to the mum, to the parent, dad, whoever. It's going home, what they call...
it's both,
Yeah.
It's funny you should say that, because this morning I took my eldest to the dentist.
Right.
And I forgot to phone school to tell them she wasn't coming in. So she didn't arrive back at school till 11:15.
Yeah.
And we have an app, so you're supposed to get a text. The text didn't come through till lunchtime to tell me that she hadn't come in this morning. So the schools have these systems apparently. Good. But if she had just been walking to school and hadn't got to school, I wouldn't have found out till lunchtime that she hadn't arrived in.
Yeah.
So I think either walking to school or walking home. Yeah, it can be a danger spot.
Definitely both ways there's dangers. What I mean is, if you're looking at a predatorial, kids normally go to school, their mates will go, "Oh, where's so-and-so? Not in," maybe former teacher, or then if the app works, you get a message. But on the way back, kids, there's a lot of parents working. So a lot of kids have their own key to the house.
Yeah, they do.
So there's potentially a longer period of time before the child will be recognised that the child hasn't come home, because if you're working late, or how many kids go home and make their own tea and the parents don't come in till 6, 7, 8 at night. So there's danger both ways. But if you're looking at it like a pure predator, you've got more time at the end of the day than you might have at the beginning.
Yeah.
But there's danger.
And some of these people, they will plan it, but also it's just chances. Who are driving past. Something happened where I used to live. There was a reservoir at the end of the road with a really nice walkway around it. And you could walk around it in like 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And there was a girl that lived a few doors down. I think she was 11 or 12 at the time. And she was into long distance running. And she'd gone out for a run around the reservoir with the dog. And she could do that quite quickly because she was running. And there's an entrance at one side and there's an entrance at the other. There's like a road that goes around half of it. So what we think happened in this situation was there was an orange van, and it was seen. We think it saw her running into one side of the reservoir, and it parked at the other side and waited for her. And as she got round, he was in the bushes waiting for her, and tried to talk to her at first, and then when she wouldn't go with him, do what he wanted, he then tried to grab her, and thankfully she managed to get away and actually ran back the other way round and got home. The dog was nowhere to be seen during any of this, because I know you think, oh, I've got the dog with me and the dog will protect me, but you can't rely on a dog. Goes off sniffing around or whatever. And she had a very, very near miss. And that, when the family, she was really traumatized, and like the nightmares, it's making me a bit upset actually. Nightmares, everything that she had because of that. But we think that he was just a chancer that just happened to be driving past and seeing a young girl going jogging on their own. So it's hard because you can't lock them up. No. But you have to just be really, just take every chance you can really to keep them safe.
And also I think looking, that's the environment, isn't it? Where you go, okay, when you're more remote, obviously there's not many people there that can assist you, and that's what some predators will look for.
And the other angle of walking to school, it's not just the child abduction, which thankfully is rare. It's things like phone snatching. Like kids and phones are just a nightmare. Like I do a lot of school runs, and I just absolutely marvel at the amount of kids that come, just like they come out of school in hordes of them, just with a phone in front of their face. And we're laughing now, but at our school, there's been kids knocked down. Like there was 2 kids knocked down last year. They were quite severely injured, just because they just walked straight out into the road looking at their phone.
Family,
like broken legs, broken bones, and there's all kids around looking, and the other kids are trying to help. So like the trauma just within that circle, and then the ripple throughout the school of what had happened. But they still come out and do it with the phones. It's
madness, isn't it? I mean, school time, you see so many kids are just glued to the phone walking home, and you're like,
yeah. And didn't we have? I meant to ask this before we started, but wasn't there a school that we were called to train at because kids were getting targeted outside the school gates by ex-pupils who were phone snatching? I mean, it depends what area you live in, thankfully.
Yeah.
I've not heard of that happening where we are, but...
Yeah, there's other areas and other schools that I've been that I would say are... there's more wealth there, and the students were getting targeted by... gangs outside the area coming in specifically because they know kids are walking around with these fancy phones and wallets and watches and stuff. Like again, you're a predator. You know where your potential prey is, and you know where they are, so you're going to go purposely there.
Yeah. So I mean, really, it's about like talking to your child about walking to school, and talking about when my eldest started school, we walked the route with her. We talked about different things. Like I am so insistent that my kids have their phones away. And if I ever see them on the phones, we'll be having a chat. But I'll say to them, there's a number of reasons. 1, you could get run over. 2, you could get your phone pinched. 3, it makes you look like an easy target for someone that wants to hurt you. So. I'm reinforcing that all the time with them. Like, you just have to put your phone away. If your friends are on their phones, let them. You can't control everyone around you, but you need to put your phone away and just pay attention to what's going on around you. So it's about like teaching them to trust their instincts, being aware of like if a van or a car pulls up, and this is something I say to the kids all the time, an adult should never ask you directions or the time or to lend them some money or for anything. No adult should be going up to a child asking them anything. I think sometimes they think, there's a car's pulled up and they need help. Well, they should never. A good adult, I would never ask a kid for help, never, because it would scare them. I'd never ask them directions, anything like that. You go and find another adult. So if they know that no adult should be ever stopping you and asking you something, it's really clear and simple for them. If an adult comes and trying to stop me, or they're pulling up alongside me in the car, I'm like, walk on, run off, stay away. You do not have to engage with them or have any kind of conversation with them.
And that's for everybody, isn't it? Somebody's trying to engage with you, I'm busy, I've got to go, make your excuses, or you don't have to, you can just run. You don't have to be polite, you don't have to help anybody. You're not being a bad person or rude. It's like, there's no law says you've got to help somebody because they want to know where McDonald's is. They should have looked at it before and know where they're going.
So it's just helping them really just to be a bit more streetwise in what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
So the next danger hotspot is public toilets, and I know this is something
blows
that
my mind.
You see all the time little kids going to toilets on their own in like pubs or public places, and I think you don't know until you know, do you?
No.
But when you've looked at the news and you've looked at they don't really have statistics, but anecdotal cases. Like I've seen so many headlines of kids, and it's not just like, someone flash at them or says something inappropriate. It's like teenage boys, 14, 15-year-old boys being raped in toilets, and you would never think.
Supermarkets.
Yeah, there was a Tesco supermarket, wasn't it? I think the teenage boy was raped. Public toilets as well, like in town centres and things like that, train stations.
Yeah.
So you can't think, your boy is 13 or 14, they can be quite big, even 15, but if they're not streetwise and they don't know what's going on, then they can still fall victim to this. And it's an unsupervised area where they can kind of get access to you without other people seeing.
Perfect ambush, isn't it? Because there's no no cameras in there. Couple of stories I can share with you. My mum and dad used to run pubs when I was young. I got flashed in the toilets. Right.
How old were you then? Can you remember?
I can't remember, and actually, I only know because me and my mum were talking about certain things, and she goes, "Oh yeah, you used to go," and somebody flashed at you, and I was like, "Oh, I'd forgotten about that," or locked it away, or whatever. And she goes, "Yeah." Then we realised, to be more careful. A real good friend of mine, awesome bloke, went to. This was when he was young. I don't know how old he was. Went to the market to get some school trousers with his mum. There was a toilet, and I'm not going to name where it was or anything, and he used to go in the toilet to try your stuff from the market from. Obviously, his mum didn't go in with him, so he went in to the toilet, putting his trousers on. He looked down, and there was a known sex offender was looking underneath up at him. That has traumatised him so much, but the sheer trauma shock of him at a young age, he really affected him in his whole life. Yeah, another story I'll share with you. I was bodyguarding. I was out with Russell Crowe's wife at the time, and we'd gone to Hyde Park. I was with her and her oldest son, now Charlie, and he was only young, and I was there to make sure, obviously, Danny, his wife at the time, and Charlie was safe. She'd gone to meet some of her friends, and we'd gone to there's a park in the middle. I can't remember what it is. It Diana's Park or something, and there's a boat in a big sand pit there. So we've gone in there to meet him, and it is a gated area because it's for families. And the other family we met a nanny and two kids, two young lads similar age, and one of the young lads from the other family wanted to go to the toilet. They didn't have security, and she's gone, "Yeah, go to the toilet." And I was like, I know it's gated, I know there's supposed to be families in there, but it wasn't controlled, there wasn't security there, and she let this probably a 6-year-old go to the toilet on his own. And I looked at the situation, I'm like, are you kidding me? She wasn't aware, I get that. So I looked at the situation, family, everyone was okay. There was no initial threat or danger there. So what I did is I followed the other kid to the toilet and kind of just stood in the doorway pretending to wash my hands to make sure the young lad he was okay, because I'm like, you do not know who's in there. That is going to be a prime area where if somebody has a preference and who's targeting young kids, that's where they're going to be. So just for me, I went in, I thought I just need to just keep an overwatch, keep an eye on this kid, make sure he's all right. Anyway, fine, came back, and I just said to the nanny, I spoke to her on the side, I said, just be, when the boys go to the toilet, you really need to go with them because we don't know who's in there. Try to put it in a nice way just to make sure, oh yeah, I didn't realise. And I've had countless chats to parents about this to go, look, go with your child until they're of an age where they're physically strong enough and they know what to do. If that happens, then they're going to know. You've got to be with them.
Yeah, you have.
Even if they're 14,
and I think it can be a bit difficult if they're a different gender to you, but then you have to kind of have some discussions about that. And there may be a disabled toilet that might be that you can wait outside the door and they can check if someone's in there. And, that these kind of plans you can come up with together.
The a lady came back to me. She goes, "Well, I go out with my son, and he's like, I'm all right, Mum. He's a young man." I said, "I get that." I said, "What you got to do is you've got to talk to your son in a way that you know how to talk to him. And say, I'm not questioning you being a young man, and you can look after yourself, and get his viewpoint on it, so you can understand." Obviously, he feels like, "Well, I'm all right, Mum. Don't be you overprotective," but then he also understands from you, and that uncomfortable potential discussion of going, I know you're a young man in that, but there are people out there, men, whoever, whatever, predators, I need to still look out for you. And whether that's me standing outside a disabled toilet and them using that, and I'm sure nothing against anybody of any gender, ability, anything, but as a parent, I would make my excuse to say, look, I'm really sorry, my son's in there, my daughter, whoever's in there, I'm just looking out for him. I would apologise. Hopefully a good person would understand why I would use the disabled toilet instead of a main toilet, especially if the child's opposite sex. And and if they didn't, okay, I'm going to take somebody getting angry at me, and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, and it's that understanding from both sides of the party, both sides to go, let's work together. Like I said, you've got to work together with your son. He's got to understand you, and you need to understand him, and then come to some kind of compromise.
Yeah. And you mentioned parks there and playgrounds, and those are also a prime spot. You're normally with your kids there, but I know when I was looking at statistics about abductions, the stranger abductions, there is a greater likelihood that it might be attempted from a park. I guess if you might not be paying attention. Your mum's kind of group of mums. I used to do this. Group of mums go there, and you have a chat, and the kids are all playing. So it's just a case of making sure you can see them all the time, and having those chats with them, and making sure that the park or playground that you're in is safe. And then when they're older, again, groups. I know some groups of kids go out and hang out at the park or the playground, like early teens. It's about thinking about whether they're mature enough to do that. Have you had conversations? What about if someone comes up to you and talks to you? How do you get away safely? What do you do?
Yeah, and also looking a bit further, because I've seen many parents, in a play area, and they're all on the phones, and you go, we're not really teaching our kids the right skill set. If we're they're playing, you go, oh, I'll just check my social media or emails. You go, just be present. But also looking a bit wider, because I've done it when I've been bodyguarding, looking at the immediate family or whoever I'm with, especially if we're with kids, and then looking a little bit wider. And I've seen it when I've been in London quite a few times, in different situations, in a park. I was also at the Water World thing near the London Eye. I can't remember what that's called. And it was weird because the family was there. I was sort of like in the background. I was just looking at a wider picture, and I've seen people taking pictures of kids in them places where it's busy. People are all focused on whatever. I'm like, and I actually saw a couple once. I'm like, that's something wrong there. So obviously I was with a client with the kids. I positioned myself so there wasn't any pictures of the kids or something. It was just weird. I was just watching. So sometimes just to pull back a bit and look at a wider lens, because it might not be that danger closed up. It might be as it maybe closes in, maybe somebody's watching or just assessing or something. It's go, okay, let's look at the bigger picture. Who's around? Why are they stood there? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think then the last area that we're going to look at, and obviously there are more areas, more danger hotspots, unfortunately, but the last one we're going to look at is seaside resorts and holidays, where you might let your hair down a bit and the kids are off playing. And unfortunately, I think most people have heard of Madeleine McCann and what happened there, where she was abducted while on holiday at night, when the parents had gone out for a meal, I believe. That's the right information. Also, things like seaside resorts, again, what Dean was saying, if you are a sex offender and you're looking for kids, where are you going to go? Seaside resorts, we know that they're hotspots. I think you were told that by a police officer that you knew. Was it? Who was it?
It was a psychiatrist that I was getting some help from many years ago. Yeah, and she did say that where she'd worked, seasides are potential real hotspots because of the clients and people she'd been trying to help. Sex offenders and things like that. That's where they're drawn to. Yeah.
So it's just, obviously you want to all enjoy yourselves, but you need to have eyes on the kids. You can get like little ID tags and things. You can get air tags. You can get all of these extra things, but it doesn't. Then there's no guarantee that any of that is going to work. Having a plan. We always have a plan, so we always know that if you get lost, what do you do? If you get lost, we either have a meeting point, or we have the, like, you stand still and I'll find you, rather than everyone wandering around trying to look for each other. So that's what I always say to my kids. What happens if you get lost? We stand still and we we just stand still and we look all around for you, and I will be the one doing the searching, and I will come to them.
And also using the voice. And that's just remind me of, I was in Alton Towers years ago with my son when he was little, and I think it was with my son. Yeah, anyway. And we were walking around, and a woman, she was absolutely losing her marbles because one of her kids had gone off. And she was paying attention to the child in the pram, and the other one had gone off. And you could see the sheer, like, panic. And
it's horrible.
But then you saw it in other parents, because we're all like, there was all like, where's the kid? Where's the kid?
Yeah.
Lucky enough, somebody, like, identified this kid on its own. And it was like, and you could, oh man, just from
it's that panic. It's given me actually chills. That panic when you lose a kid, it's awful.
Wow.
I saw it. I remember experiencing it in IKEA once. Someone had lost their kid, and they must have been looking for a while. And the mum was screaming and, like, hysterical. Everyone, it's going to make me cry actually, because it really gets you, doesn't it? The thought of losing your kid. Yeah. Everyone was helping, and this kid, they'd got in a cupboard and shut the doors. So you imagine in IKEA how many cupboards there are.
Yeah.
The kid had got in a cupboard and shut the doors. So until everyone starts opening doors, they found the kid. I don't know if they thought, oh, I'm going to get shouted at now because everyone's screaming. I'll just stay in the cupboard.
Yeah.
But it is. And I got lost as well. I was 10 and we were in Disney World. And I remember my dad going, oh, look at that parrot over there or something. And I'd taken it as a cue to go over and look at it. So I wandered off to look at it. And then I turned round and I couldn't see them. And it felt like forever that we were lost. And it was, for me as a kid, it was so traumatic. Like, you don't have all that many childhood memories, but I remember that. Yeah. And they were like frantic when they finally found me. So anywhere like that, when you're in real busy places, you can get lost, like Seasides, like holiday resorts, anything like that. It's so easy.
Look at Meadowhall. That's a big old place.
Yeah,
it's having a plan, isn't it? I'm sure some people listening to this or watching this, I get lost in IKEA as well. That's a crazy place. Gee, it's not very friendly to try and get out. I can never get out. I was in there for 1 week once. But anyway, I remember as well when I was younger, my mum and dad used to live remotely, and there was a couple of houses just there. And my dad used to work away, and we had a big garden, and it was, and what had happened is my mum thought I'd gone out in the garden. And actually, I'd gone into the front room and fell asleep on the settee. And because of the settee where it's positioned, my mum couldn't see me. So she was running around the garden. She rang the police. She got all the police out. She rang my dad. But dad came home. And then my dad found me. The front room was still asleep. So it was like, oh, man.
You just reminded me of something there, actually, that I was going to mention that I didn't. Thinking about your home and, like, your garden and... how safe that is with, like, are people passing by? How safe is your garden or where your kids are playing at home? Because there was one case that I was reading of that was in the news, and it was this family the house was on a main road, and they'd got a playroom for the kids, and it was like the front room of the house. Right. So this person had seen walking by the front room that it was a kid's playroom, and they was obviously scoping it out walking back, and they tried to take the kid out the window of the playroom. Wow. And I know it's like very few and far between, but it's just, if you can just think about all these things, we don't want people to be scared, but if you've got the knowledge, you can kind of think, okay, well, where is my playroom going to be? Is it invisible of the street? Well, let's get some blinds in there then, so people can't see in, and think about, like, is the window on the latch so that it can't, no one can lean in, or they're playing out the front. I know my kids, kids are always wanting to be biking up and down out the front. Well, so can you, like, talk to neighbours so that there's always one adult sat there watching the kids biking or doing whatever it is they're doing, rather than just thinking, checking every now and again and looking, which I have done over the years. But you just think, is it worth it for the sake of someone driving down and taking a chance? You'd
Yeah,
never forgive yourself.
No, and you've got to look at it, haven't you? Everything you do has got a risk to it. And you look at it logically and going, okay, how can it be more safer? So I think it's important, if you're still listening to this or watching it, is to get empowerment from this. So yeah, there's bad things that happen, but with you listening to this, you've expanded your understanding and knowledge of where potential dangers are, and now you can think about it to go, actually, I can make myself a little bit safer. Like I talk about the parents when I say about the bathroom things. They're good people, they're good parents, and the look on their faces when I go, you just might want to think about it differently, and they're mortified because they've just realised that they might have put the kids in a danger when they could have avoided it, and they haven't done it on purpose. So it's looking at it and going, now I'm aware of that, I'm actually in a better position, more empowered position to do something that will keep me, my kids, or whoever, my partner, my family, safer.
Yeah. I think we've covered the main ones that we wanted to cover, but it's thinking about like all your busy places like shopping centres, like festivals, big events. They can be dangerous.
Yeah.
If your kids are having to get taxis alone or public transport alone at any point, then that could be dangerous as well in terms of people, well, either the taxi driver or if they're on a bus or a train, someone coming over to them and maybe starting to groom them or, whatever, touching them, putting their hand on their leg, just doing something inappropriate that can actually really, really scare them and cause trauma to them. I've heard of a lot of cases of bullying happening on school buses.
Right.
And that's something to think about and talk about. And, we talked about walking to school. We talked about all different elements, but actual other kids themselves can be a source of danger.
Yeah,
and, we're hearing more and more about things like stabbings in schools, bullying, sexual violence in schools.
Yeah.
And I think that's a whole other topic that we'll talk about another day, but that is something to be aware of and just to talk about as well. And I think, if there's going to be one takeaway from this for everyone to go away with, it would be just to start having those open, honest conversations, and how best to talk to your child, how to do it in a way that doesn't scare them, but they do need to have that level of, I don't know if I'd say fear, but wariness, reality.
Yeah.
And if you can start doing that, then you'll be helping to keep them a lot safer.
I just thought of a game you could play. You could play the game, what are you scared of? So you go to your children and go, well, what are you scared of? Or you could start off, go, well, I'm scared of this, and that could be what I'm scared of me personally, or what I'm scared of for them.
Yeah.
So they understand maybe why I'm a bit, or I could be overprotective, or always asking them or stuff, and get the conversations going.
Yeah. So that's kind of your challenge, if you want one, for this week, to go away and have some open, honest conversations with your child, also with your partner if you have one, about just safety routines and things that you do around those areas that we've talked about. And if you have found this interesting and helpful, please share it with some friends, because you're helping to keep more people safe. And as parents, we all need to look out for each other and to keep all our kids as safe as possible. So thank you. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review if you fancy doing that. That'd be great. We'd really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.